What's up, guys? We're back. We missed you last week.
Sorry.
We'll blame Julie. Just kidding.
Yeah, no, really was. I just had one of those weeks that I'm like, oh man, I need to take off and just relax and just manifest what I need, which I was trying to manifest more time and patience. So I don't miss any of these podcasts. I was very disappointed in myself. Then I had a talking with Alicia and I was like, hey, why do you hate the word manifest? Because you said that in a couple of podcasts and you were like, I hate that word, but I love it. I love it. I think it's like marinating in what you really want. And then it gives the locus of control in your hands. So you feel you're responsible for your actions, which I really truly believe. And the way you think, the way you perceive life and everything, if you hold on to responsibility in that, then you feel like when you get these rewards that come and whatnot, you kind of have a sense of achievement. So I feel like you manifest those achievements.
I agree. I think that I'm changing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Tell us more.
So, okay, so I was raised super religious. We've sort of talked about that a little bit. And
Mhm.
I was full in. I had the full buy-in to my Protestant religion.
Okay.
And I mean, I was probably like the picture perfect. I mean, I wasn't perfect ever, but like I was like very serious about it. So when I went to college, I had this crisis of belief, I guess you could say. And I started realizing that I kind of grew up in a bubble and I was very sheltered and I was surrounded by what I thought was like a bunch of people that were in my corner, but it turned out that I wasn't really exposed to the world and what people were really like. And even within religious groups, I don't think I got the full picture of like, let's say, what the church congregation was like, because my parents sheltered us from that too. So I didn't know like all the dirt on the people in the congregation because people are people no matter where they are. So there had to be dirt. So anyway, I go to college and basically like turned atheist. I learned about canonization because the college that I went to made you take it was a Christian based college, and so they made you take New Testament and Old Testament. And in the I don't even remember which one it was. I don't remember because I took both Old and New Testament. And whichever one it was, we were talking about canonization. And that was the first time I'd ever learned that. So essentially, what canonization was the process that they went through to choose which books were in the Bible. And I was like looking around the classroom at everybody like, you guys are all hearing this. How are you guys all still like so bought in to what the Bible is? And like I asked questions and they had subpar answers, if you ask me. Um, and so because I'm a curious person and I was never afraid to ask questions. So did all that, kind of got to a place where I was like, I don't know if I believe any of this. And honestly, very glad that I did get to that place because I feel like that prompted me to go on my own spiritual journey. So when I first started in my own spiritual journey, I think it was like um I I kind of left college and decided that I did believe that there was something. And then I started working at rehab, and rehab tends to be very God oriented because AA and NA is very God oriented.
True.
So a lot of the patients that I was working with were talking about God and talking about their faith, and um, there were a lot of different elements to that. And I felt like at that time I could be really open minded to different perspectives because I had gone through my own stuff and gotten to the point of atheism and whatever. So at that point, I think I really started to value me being more grounded and less like bought into one specific thing. And then it kind of became very important to me not to buy into any specific thing because I didn't trust any specific thing. And I guess I still don't 100% buy into anything. However, in the last year, I think probably truly in the last year, I've been learning a lot more of the science behind manifestation. And the thing for me that's kind of changing me at this point is that a lot of the pieces are fitting together. So what I learned in school, and this is all like me looking for evidence, essentially. Like, I don't want to just believe something. I want there to be evidence. I want there to be some kind of like proof behind it. So the things I learned in graduate school, for example, as far as like having high standards and making a list of what you want in a partner, like that's a pretty classic activity that you do in therapy, or when you're a single person and you're trying to consider what you want in a healthy partner. Like, I don't want to just accept anything. What do I want in a healthy partner? I never thought of that as manifesting a partner. Never thought of that. Setting goals and accomplishing them was just setting goals and accomplishing them. It wasn't manifesting to me. And so for me, I was like, why are we bringing spirituality into something that's already evidence-based? Like, this is already like something that we know from research and studying. Why are we making it spiritual? But I think, again, bringing science into things, and the science being like quantum physics and quantum consciousness, and long story short, the idea that who you are is not your physical body, it's not your brain, it's not your feelings, it's not your thoughts, because that's all just part of humanity. And if when we die, we continue to exist, then you aren't just a human. You aren't just whatever you are in this experience. And so for me, I'm starting to believe that if that's the case, then perhaps we do have more control over what happens in our lives than we thought we did. And you mentioned something in the psychology world that we call locus of control. Locus of control is, do I believe that I have an impact on what happens in my life? And there's a lot of research on that. And it turns out the people who are happiest are people who believe that they do have control in their life. Now, that one's tough for me because I think there's a lot of uncontrollables. There's so many things in life that we can't control. But this idea that I am the creator of my own life, I have a say in what's going on, I can manifest what I want, is starting to seem more real to me. And it's starting to line up with science and a lot of other areas that I've dove into in the last year. And so I'm not going to say that I'm like hardcore on any of this stuff right now, but I'm starting to come around to being able to use these words without freaking out, because another word that I hated was vibrations. Anytime a person said vibrations, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm
Even
out.
good vibes, even short for vibration, vibes. Like, oh, good vibes, sending you good vibes, sending you what, you don't like those either.
Well, vibes was okay because to me it was slang. But the word vibrations, I was like, here we go, vibrations. I can't handle it.
I agree with you. When things become too frou-frou, I actually, it sucks, but I actually cut the credit to what the meaning of what they're trying to say, because I get stuck on the word vibration. I get stuck on some word that like totally discredits that person and what they're saying. So even if they have they have something that's actually meaningful and significant, I'm already checked out because they use a word. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's the background on why some of this stuff has been a turnoff for me. But I do feel like I'm coming around to seeing how these things all integrate and work together. And it is interesting because this sort of goes into mindset, which is something that you and I have talked about a lot on the podcast. And mindset has a lot to do with what you're manifesting in your life. Like, do you see the positives in your life? Can you
Yeah.
see them? Are you focused on them? Are you grateful for them? Or are you only seeing negatives? Because if you're only seeing negatives, you're going to continue to struggle.
Yeah.
And go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Oh,
I just talked
I
a lot.
I was gonna say also, when you said you don't believe that there's a lot of things that's not your control, that's true. But what you have control of is your perception of whatever happens, right?
That's so true. Yeah.
So let's say you and I are stuck in traffic, and there's a classic example that a lot of people use. So there's one person stuck in traffic, and they pull over the person. They go, "Hey, how did you like the?" He's like, "How do you enjoy the 2 hour in traffic?" And the person goes, "Oh, it was great. Actually, I'm so used to it every day that I actually am able to catch up my podcast, and I actually am able to speak to my mom, speak to my best friends, whatever. So I'm able to catch up with them because I can't really see them. I live very far away from everyone. So it makes me feel connected to my community. So actually, I think it's great." And then the other person on traffic was like, "This sucks. I hate it. Every day I feel so bad. And I go home and I'm getting a fight with my wife and I do this and blah, 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 you know? But it's like they're actually facing the two exact same things.
Yeah.
But what you can't control is the traffic. You're going to be sitting in 2 hour traffic. What you can control is what your perception of the 2 hour traffic means. One means that he has opportunity to connect to his community, and an opportunity to probably just what is it relax and decompress, so he gets home and maybe he's in a better mood. He probably is in a better mood. Versus the other one uses that time to get pissed off and to focus on things he can't control, this traffic, and it's probably weaving in and out of like from the scene from Office Space where he switches lanes and it gets slower and he switches lanes and that's slower, you know so things that you focus on, like, you don't have control over it. You don't have control if your two kids are going to be screaming and or sick or need to get weather, and you can't control if you're, if Seb's going to get is let's say he gets delayed, he can't pick up the kids, you got to pick up the kids. You can't control all those things, right?
Mhm.
But what you can control is, okay, how am I going to see this? And
Yeah.
of course, in the time, you're not going to, a lot, it's harder said than done. I'm a victim of that too. But it's like, we try. There's certain times when I'm in the mental capacity where it's a good day, everything's going well. I have the mental capacity to be like, okay, let me break down, slow it down, and see things. Some days I'm like, oh, running around, missing a podcast recording. Sorry. I'm feeling really guilty and bad about that. But I look back and I go, okay, what do I have control over next week? What can I do to make sure I block out that time, even if it's a crazy day? Right. And then I'm like, and then we're talking about, should we have a shorter recording? Should we have a whatever? Should we change time? Whatever it is, right? But there are things that we can control. And I really feel like because I lived in the victim mentality a lot of my younger years. And during that time, I really wasn't happy. I just felt like the world around me was moving and I was catching up, because it was the world's fault that I was catching up. It was the world's fault that I woke up late because nobody woke me up, or because whatever it was, right? So it was someone's fault and it was never mine. But when I finally started saying, okay, is it, like, whose fault is it really? And also, what if I took blame on everything? And then I actually realized that I can't be in control of it.
Yeah. That's interesting. I remember working with this client and he was doing his steps in AA, and his sponsor told him that he needed to take responsibility for being sexually molested. And I was so upset. I was like, oh my God, that's victim blaming. Like, how can you tell someone that they should take responsibility for their sexual molestation? And just as a caveat here, I do not think anybody should take responsibility for sexual abuse.
I
However,
don't.
what my client said to me really hit me, because I was like, wow, that's quite the perspective. So he said to me, at the end of the day, I am an addict. And if you give me an inch, I'm going to take a mile. So I need to figure out how I can at least avoid those situations. And I was like, wow, okay. then I am with you on this. So, and he's not wrong in the sense that a lot of people who experience sexual abuse don't just experience it once, they experience it on repeat. The research shows that a big reason why that happens is because people do not learn how to protect themselves. They don't recognize red flags, green flags. They don't recognize who's safe and who isn't. And they don't put themselves in safe situations a lot of times. So, I'm not saying that it's the victim's fault at all. Please, let's be clear on that. But I am saying I do think that there's something to be said for trying to learn from those situations and protect ourselves moving forward so we don't have to experience that again. And that's what I tell my clients, and that's what I try to work with them on, because it is something that seems to happen on repeat.
Yeah, and as a sexual assault victim myself, I had repetitive incidences that happened to me, and when you first said they can't take responsibility, that it is very offensive. First it was like, okay, it's very offensive, but let me just listen to what you're saying, right? Then I was like, in my head immediately when you're saying that, I was like, why is that guy a sponsor? That's really fucked up to say. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say, oh, it's your fault, you're an addict, do something about it, or it's your fault, someone did that to you, do something about it. It's like, what are you talking about? How is it my fault?
Yeah.
But then I was really in a dark place during the times that had happened, and I did put myself in a situation where it would have been easy for that to happen again, because I was surrounding myself with people who weren't like weren't the best people. They're really shady. They were doing a lot of drugs. They're doing stuff like that. So my surrounding was that, and I didn't take responsibility for it. In a sense, I said, well, it's all their fault. I didn't do anything to get myself in there. But I also wasn't, the other part that I could say that I could take responsibility for was, what I wasn't doing is I wasn't healing from it. I wasn't facing it because it was so painful to face it, that I thought at that time it was easier just to continue my life the way it was. Because if I faced it, then I would have had to face, was it my fault? Am I damaged goods? Am I, not a whole person anymore? Am I whatever? All these questions that you ask. And it's not about taking responsibility for what happened or saying what happened was justifiable or anything at all. It's just looking at what happened and saying, what can I do about it now? Not saying he's right, or that situation was right, or that person had a reason to do it. Not like that at all. It was more like, okay, it happened. You can't change the past. What can I do to move forward and look into the future?
Yes. And I think the healing part is really important, as far as like not having the repetition, like not having the same thing happening over and over again. I definitely believe that as well. And I worry all the time, on this subject as far as sexual abuse, about my children, because I have daughters, and so many of my clients have experienced sexual assault. And so I think about, like, okay, well, what can I teach them? And I want to teach them, like, watch your drink, always have a friend with you, don't take drugs from a stranger. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this stuff might sound like common sense, but I made so many terrible, risky decisions when I was young. But nobody talked to me about it. They were just like, don't get pregnant,
Yeah, okay.
That was the advice that I got.
Honestly, it actually feels not fun to go out if you're going to be so paranoid. Just playing devil's advocate, right? If you're gonna be like watching your drink, putting your hand on it the whole time, and and watching people, you're so uptight. It's like it takes the fun out of going out. But I guess that's true. I guess you should be conscious of it or be aware of it, but not let it take over your whole night. Because what if you're standing there in a corner paranoid, like, oh my God, the next person talks to me is going to, roofing my, where's the
right. I mean, I want them to learn to drink responsibly too. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I can even teach them these things, but these are hopes that I have.
Right? It awareness, right? Because nowadays I'm my mom just sent me a video, so disturbing. But there's like just a person, a woman, she's probably in her early 20s, walking down an alley, like not even a dark, crazy alley that you see, that you picture, right? But it was an alley, and there's a bunch of houses around. Like it was like a little fence with like trash, but the trash cans were the houses trash can. It wasn't like a commercial area. So she was walking in behind an alley that was behind like apartment buildings. There we go. And then the other side was like front yards of homes. And as she was walking there, there's two big guys, literally probably double her size, came over and just started punching her, and robbed her, right? But
Oh my God.
somebody was there and honked their horn to be like, hey, stop, whatever. But that person never jumped out of the car to help her or anything. But she just like, they hit her so much that she just was unconscious on the floor, and they robbed her and left. And it was all found on surveillance because there was all homes. So all these ring cameras picked it up. But it's like, yeah, so now you can't even walk down the street by yourself. You know what I mean? You can't, what
Yeah.
could you do?
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. That's like going into the uncontrollables. There's things in life that there's no way you can avoid, no matter what you do to try to protect yourself. There are just awful things that happen in life, and I still believe though that through healing and taking time to process through that, beautiful things can come from the worst tragedies. And I remember once I posted that on Facebook or something. I don't remember where it was. It was some social media. And oh my gosh, the people that commented angrily telling me that, there's nothing good that can come from childhood abuse. There's nothing good that can come from sexual assault. And I understand that perspective. I empathize with it very much, but that's going to keep you stuck in your pain, and that's not going to allow you to live your life with emotional freedom, shall we say?
Yeah. It's not to look back and say, I'm glad that happened and made me a stronger person. No, no, no. It's saying that sucks. That happened and we can't do anything about it. We're not going to justify, we're not going to, blame, blah, blah, whatever. We're just going to look at it as a isolated, objective thing and say, what can I do about it? That's going to make you unstuck. I think trying to get into the why did that happen? Was my skirt too short? Was I too flirty? Was I too whatever? Did I show up like that? The whys may not actually matter. What matters is it happened. Now it's like, what are you going to do now? That's what helped me, I think, because I think I was stuck in the why for a really long time. And that's why I think the second time it happened, it was, I'm a hard learner, apparently. I like to do third time's charm. No, but I was,
That's a terrible joke.
I know. Let's scratch that. No, I'm just kidding. But it was, it's like, man, I got to do something, and that kind of woke me up a lot. But it was sitting there and blaming myself a lot that got me stuck. I just stood there saying, but why me? Why not her? A group of our friends, we all kind of wore the same thing. We all kind of blah, blah. Why was I the one chosen? Why did it happen to me? And I just realized, I don't know why, because that person was a crazy creep. So that person decided to do that to me. So it was in his best interest to do that for whatever whys he had. So I can't explain this person's traumatized life to do that to a human being. Yeah. So I think you have to just let go of the whys at some point and go, okay, now, stop looking back because they're not going that way. Look forward. That's the only life you do have now.
That's true. And it's hard to accept. I think it's hard to accept the pain. Like you were saying, like you avoided the pain of your experience for so long. And I think anytime we're avoiding, it's because we're afraid to face the pain.
Yeah. 1000%.
I think denial, I was talking to a client earlier about narcissists, and narcissists tend to have these moments of clarity where they will admit that they're awful, and they'll
Uh-huh.
admit everything, and they'll cry, and they're hysterical, and they're just a mess. And then literally like 2 to 12 hours later, they may like pretend they never said that, or
Oh,
even deny that they ever said that. And they have to do that because they cannot handle the pain that they're feeling in that moment.
yeah. So it was just, but the thing is, the pain that you handle in the moment, it's a bag of extreme emotions. That's why it's hard to break down, because it comes to, it's my fault. I'm such a piece of shit. I can't believe I did that to myself. I can't believe that person did it. I hate that person. Why did that person do that? Blah blah blah. What you know what I mean? And it just goes into this rabbit hole of why, hate, sad, and then just trying to figure out like your self worth in the whole thing. But I think if I had higher self worth, I think I would have been like, it was that person's problem. That, me had nothing to do with me. I literally was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It doesn't matter how short my skirt was. It doesn't matter what makeup I had. It doesn't matter where I was. That person was going to do that.
Yeah.
But what do I do about it? Yeah.
Yeah. That is part of the uncontrollables. So there's some things we have control over and there's some things we don't. But at the end of the day, it's our perspective and what we're going to do next that matters.
Yeah. And how we're going to manifest our life. And we didn't talk too much about manifesting, but I do really want to, maybe we'll touch base in the future one. But I do want to talk about that because I feel like for me, the way I manifest is I put a goal in my life, right? And the reason why it's spiritual to me versus like just like a professional goal, it could be a professional, it doesn't matter. If it's a simple goal that doesn't need spirituality or your whole body and spirit and soul in this, is because when you believe in something, you can help your whole soul and body to embody this life that you're imagining. Like your goal is to buy a house, right? Let's say your goal is to get a house by the end of the year, but you kind of have to surround yourself with all your decisions must be surrounded by towards, am I saving for this house? Like me spending tons of money every weekend, blah blah, is not focusing on that. But it's like, but if you if you manifest and you picture your future self in that house, you'll start acting like and making decisions as if you're in that house.
Yeah,
That's
that's
why I
what they
think.
say, which that's honestly something that kind of confuses me because for me, like they say, like, okay, if you want money, you have to imagine that you already have it. It's like, well, I can't spend it if I don't have it. So I don't understand. But for what I've teased apart is that they're saying, long story short, if you wouldn't be anxious about money because you would know that you have it in your account. So instead of sitting around worrying about, oh God, how am I going to pay your next bill? Don't waste your time worrying about it. Because for one, that's not helpful. And for another, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And I also think on that side is when you act like you already have it, I want to ask, get to the next level and say, why are you manifesting that? Why do you want the house? And why do you want the money? Let's say I want the money so I could be able to buy all these, I don't know, like, listen, I don't know, buy a car. So you just have to imagine yourself in that car versus the money to have the car. Like, what's your end goal? It must not be money. It has to be something else. So
Yeah.
if your goal is just to spend a bunch of money to buy makeup or hair products, which I do not disagree with, because I have a huge drawer of skincare, which I'm obsessed with. I still think that what's your end goal? My end goal is not to buy the hyaluronic acid. You know what I mean? My end goal is to have nice skin.
Yeah.
So you start manifesting your decisions or your life, which all your decisions are affected by that goal of having nice skin.
Mm-hmm.
So ask that deeper question of like, why do you want the money? Why do you want the skincare? Why do you want the whatever? What's your end goal?
So see, this is where the whys matter.
Why? I think moving forward, the whys matter. I think
Yeah.
moving backwards, the whys might get you stuck.
Yeah, no, but I think that that's a really cool connection.
Oh, that's true, huh? As we're talking about, I think we just came up with something great.
Yes, indeed. There's a country song that I like, and in the lyrics he says, don't go asking Jesus why. We're not meant to know the answers. That belongs to the by and by.
No, that's actually really cute.
I liked it. Yeah.
Well, on
So,
that,
yeah, on that note, listen to that song later.
what is that? It's a country
Eric
song.
Church,
Okay.
Halo or something. I don't remember. I think it's Eric Church though.
Eric Church.
All right, guys. We'll talk more about this stuff again. We have to make this one short today, but thanks for hanging out once again.
Love you guys.